Welcome to Timeless Chronicles. Explore history, heroines of the Wild West you wouldn't want to mess with. Subscribe now for captivating content that takes you beyond time. Timeless Chronicles, history, mysteries. Enjoy this video. Mary Fields fought off wolves and knocked men out with a single punch. Stagecoach. Mary Fields, 1832 to 1914, spent her early life enslaved, but after the 13th Amendment was passed, she worked as a mail carrier, the first black woman postal worker in history, as well as a laborer for a church in Cascades. Cathay Williams enlisted in the Civil War as a man in order to fight. Cathay Williams refused to let her gender or race stop her from serving her country. During the Civil War, Williams wanted to fight on the front lines, but at the time, women weren't allowed anywhere near the battlefield as anything more than a cook, laundress, or nurse. Annie Oakley was one of the greatest sharpshooters in history. Annie Oakley, who was born in 1860, will forever be remembered for her otherworldly sharpshooting skills that put almost everyone else, especially overconfident men, to shame. But one of the coolest things about Oakley is her dedication to her family. Laura Bullion, the thorny rose of the Wild West, was an outlaw. After being born into a family of outlaws in approximately 1876, it was only natural that Laura Bullion followed suit. After a tough early life, she eventually joined the Wild Bunch, better known for producing Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and rode with the infamous Outlaws. Pearl Hart gave voice to a feminist rally cry. Her actions may not have been all that admirable, but Pearl Hart's feminist stance spat in the face of the male-dominated Wild West. When she was younger, she was inspired by Annie Oakley and left her children in Canada while she moved to Arizona so she could experience the great outdoors. She started to struggle financially, and it forced her to turn to a life of crime. Bridget Biddy Mason helped the needy, even in death. Bridget Biddy Mason started life as an illiterate enslaved person, but would soon grow to become a successful entrepreneur and huge contributor to social causes. After winning her freedom in court in 1856, she moved to Los Angeles with her daughters and found employment as a nurse and midwife. She worked for a financially well-off man, and 10 years after earning her freedom, she bought her own land for $250, making her one of the first black women to own land in Los Angeles. Esther Hobart Morris lobbied for women's suffrage in Wyoming. Esther Hobart Morris successfully brought women's suffrage to Wyoming. Though it has been disputed in recent years, the story goes that Morris was the main force behind the suffrage legislation and was vital in seeing it passed. Big Nose Kate freed Doc Holliday by nearly burning down a town. You would think a sex worker with an unfortunate nickname would have trouble drumming up business, but that didn't stop Big Nose Kate from being wildly successful in her line of work. Susan Doc Susie Anderson practiced medicine for 47 years. Some people go above and beyond when it comes to helping the needy. If you're looking for inspiration for a true force for good in the universe, look no further than Susan Anderson. She was born in 1870 in Indiana, and from a young age, she just wanted to help people. Angelina Eberly incited the Archive War. Not many women can say they successfully started a war, but then again, not many people were quite like Angelina Eberly. In 1839, the pioneer settled in Austin, TX, where she ran the Eberly House with her husband, Jacob Eberly. Apparently, her house was a local hotspot, and high-up officials liked to stay there when they passed through town. Unfortunately, her husband passed in 1841, leaving her to run the house herself. Sarah Bowman fought on in the face of danger. Nicknamed Great Western because of her 6'2" stature, Sarah Bowman stands as a mighty symbol for tough women everywhere. During the Mexican-American War, she joined her husband on the field as a cook and laundress. As the legend goes, she was unflinching in the face of combat and refused to retreat with the other women when things started to get messy, even when a tray was shot right out of her hand. Margaret Heffernan Borland managed an extraordinary amount of cattle. Margaret Heffernan Borland takes motherhood to an entirely different level. She married a man named Harrison Dunbar, but he passed shortly after Margaret gave birth to her first daughter. A few years later, Margaret married Milton Hardy, but he passed from cholera, leaving her with an additional 2 children.